Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Tom. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, and welcome to Tom's Takes. Now this is going to be a new show on this channel where I talk about basically whatever's on my mind for that week. So this isn't really going to be a replacement for, oh geez, the focus just kind of went out. This isn't going to be a replacement for anything on this channel. It's just going to be a more production friendly thing for me to do on this channel more consistently. You know, I can just do this with a basic setup. I don't have to have a bunch of different camera angles going on. I don't have to go in Premiere and start masking myself into different frames with myself. So this is just meant to be a more simple solution to basically producing more content for this channel and hopefully quality content. And also I'm wearing a hat because my hair is just, I don't know what it's doing anymore. Like I have too much hair. Like that's a problem I haven't had. And while it's not a problem I thought I would still have. So each week I'm going to talk about, a concept, maybe a piece of media, maybe something just a bit more broad than what I would usually talk about on the roundtable, but with a similar commentary analysis type of format, especially since people were mentioning that they would like to see that on this channel. It's something I've thought about in the past, and I figured, well, if people want to see it, then why not just do it? So that's what we're doing. And this week, I want to talk about political correctness. Now, political correctness is this concept that's brought up a lot today, usually by more far-right people saying that it's policing free speech, it's policing freedom, and usually that's because socially liberal people are usually less likely to get in trouble for political correctness. The thing about political correctness is it's basically just understanding your audience and having manners. The thing is whether you're a liberal or a conservative, you're going to be policed by political correctness, because basically what political correctness is this, it's not saying that you have to have a certain set of beliefs. It's not saying that you have to feel a certain way. It's just saying, hey, there's a time and place. Maybe don't go on the news and start talking about how black people aren't actually people. It's basically just having manners with your political beliefs. It's kind of like that old saying of don't talk about sex, politics, or religion with people that you aren't really that comfortable with. Maybe you don't have to fundamentally agree with someone, but you should probably get along with them if it's in a workplace or if it's just in a setting where, hey, we don't have to be friends, but we should probably at least be polite and nice to each other. And it's kind of hard to be nice to someone when they keep bringing up a political belief that vastly disagrees with your own. And the thing is when it comes to politics, people don't like people who disagree with them. And there's nothing weak or wrong about that. That's just human nature. I've had people who looked at me sideways because I said I didn't vote for Trump. Like, that may sound weird if you think that as a more left-leaning person, I live in an echo chamber. But no, I've actually been in scenarios where I said, no, I didn't vote for Trump. And I get looked at sideways. They're like, so you voted for Hillary? And it's like, yeah, I voted for Hillary. And it's like, well, Hillary's even worse than Trump. I'm not gonna, this was in a setting specifically where political correctness is supposed to be in place. And you're not supposed to talk about those things. And I avoid the situation because it's like, I'm not going to get in a political argument in certain settings because there are points where it's not appropriate. It's understanding when things are appropriate and when things aren't appropriate, but at the same time, it's not quite that simple. There are people who believe that political correctness actually oppresses people, and in some cases, maybe you can try to find an argument for that. Let's give an example. So in concept, the thing about political correctness is it doesn't really affect you unless you let it affect you. It's actually something where you kind of have a choice. You can choose to say, hey, I'm just going to voice my opinion regardless of what consequences I may face. Or you can say, hey, I'm just gonna not do that. So here's an example. I used to work in a deli where I either had to wear a hairnet or a hat. In fact, this is the hat I wore while I worked there. The thing is let's say someone decides I'm going to wear a Make America Great Again hat. If you have a customer base that is not going to come to your deli because people working in the deli are wearing Make America Great Again hats, and you're a manager there, and maybe your beliefs, maybe you voted for Trump, maybe you actually do support Trump. But the thing is, if you're losing business because you have people voicing their political opinions while they're making food, then that's where political correctness comes into play. and they say, hey, you can either get a different hat or you can find another job because you're affecting our business in a negative way. The way things are, this isn't gonna work. And the thing is, the same thing applies to the other side. And the thing is this is a two-way street. If I were to, when I worked in that deli, wear a Black Lives Matter hat, and I'm serving a clientele of mostly older white people in a district that voted for Trump, chances are that would actually negatively affect business even more in my circumstances. And honestly, I wouldn't be able to be mad if my managers came up and said, listen, you're affecting our business in a bad way, find another job or get another hat. Like, political correctness actually is not that weighted of an issue. And people like to blow it out of proportion. People like to say political correctness is ruining this country, but really it's just the idea that maybe you should be a bit more civil in how you express your political beliefs. And that's really all it is. That's pretty much it. And that's why you don't see me or anyone else who is on the side of marginalized groups fighting that hard for political correctness. Because political correctness is just a concept. It's not actually saying, hey, stop being racist. It's saying, hey, you can be racist if you want, but just don't say it at certain times. And it's kind of wild, the fact that some people can't even do that. Like, you're just so passionate about the fact that, there's only two genders, or that women are inferior to men, that you actually can't keep those beliefs to yourself in places where it's not appropriate to express those beliefs. And it's not about being sensitive, it's about the fact that maybe people don't want to hear about your obnoxious beliefs in every situation. Oh, but now I might be getting into safe spaces. So, let's just move on. The thing is most commonly, political correctness is not losing your job. It is sometimes, but usually the political correctness that people are referring to when they complain about it is usually just a swing in the socio-political climate of just the world. And that's not really political correctness, that's just a new wave of beliefs. Let's say that you're a straight white male and you go up to your group of friends. They can be any race, gender, whatever, doesn't matter. You walk up and you make a joke that's maybe a little racist, maybe a little misogynist, maybe a little rapey, and they're like, dude, that's not funny. And then you start going on a whole rant about how political correctness is making this generation soft. The thing is, if anything, it's actually holding comedians to a higher standard. A good example of this is two comedy bands, Steel Panther and Ninja Sex Party. The two of them are friends. I'm sure everyone behind both bands are great people. As far as I know, Steel Panther, which is gonna be the example of how not to do what I'm about to describe, I've been told that they're trying to do like a satire on hair bands, which those haven't been around for decades, so I don't know why they need to have a satire on them. Both are comedy bands, meaning that they make music that's meant to be kind of tongue-in-cheek and funny. And both bands have sort of a similar subject matter where they're both really vulgar, really sexual, and that's where a lot of the humor for their music comes from, is from sex and vulgarity. And the thing is, sex and vulgarity is not politically incorrect, depending on the context. Of course, if you go on Nick Jr. and you're talking about sex, that's not cool, but if it's just you have a band and it talks about vulgar topics, there's nothing wrong with that. You know your audience, you're going for a specific audience, and you can even argue the same way in the context of political correctness. If you're going for a certain audience, then it doesn't matter, but at the same time, the people who come across your music that aren't of that audience are of course going to, and honestly, I don't really like Steel Panther, not because they're politically incorrect, but just because I don't really find them funny or charming. They're talented musicians for sure. It just doesn't appeal to me. And that's a big thing too, is a lot of people are saying we're ruining comedy because we come after these comedians for not being politically correct. But if you're offending people and they don't find your jokes funny, it sounds more like you're just failing to appeal to a market. And that's kind of your own fault. So Steel Panther is a hair band. They talk a lot about having sex with random women, and honestly, the thing is they are kind of demeaning to women who they're talking about. The women who appear in their videos are very much objectified, they are very much degraded, they don't really have a role besides, hey, look at this hot chick. And if they do have a role, it's usually very minimizing, it's very condescending, it's usually just meant to elevate the image and the machismo of the band members in exchange for degrading and objectifying the woman playing the role of nameless woman who happens to be hot. Now, Ninja Sex Party, on the other hand, they have very similar subject matter, they make very similar jokes, but the thing is, the key difference is Dan Avidan, the man who plays the frontman for Ninja Sex Party, Danny Sexbang, very much is comfortable with laughing at himself. He's very much comfortable with not taking himself seriously. When there are women in Ninja Sex Party videos, they feel like they have their own character, and they feel like they're usually the ones who are grounded in reality and more rational. The comedy in Ninja Sex Party doesn't just come from these sexual themes, it comes from the personalities of the people in the band. Ninja Brian, who is a psychotic murderer, and Danny Sexbang, who is an oblivious idiot motivated by the idea of romancing women. So despite the similarities between the two bands, they have two very different ways of executing the concept of what they are, and arguably, Ninja Sex Party is much more successful and honestly just overall more creative in that. Aside from any offense or disgust that I may feel watching a Steel Panther video, it's just not as dynamic or creative as watching a Ninja Sex Party video. And while the frontman for Steel Panther makes songs about cheating on his wife while he's on the road with countless women because his dick is just too good not to share with the rest of the world, Ninja Sex Party makes songs about Danny Sexbang thinking he's an amazing lover because he lasts 3 minutes in bed. Those are two very different ways of presenting comedy, and honestly, the thing is, with Steel Panther, it kind of feels like you're just supposed to be in awe of this guy. Like, this guy is just so amazing. And it's like, why should I feel that way? And honestly, with comedy, why should I think that you're so great? The thing about Ninja Sex Party is you feel like you're in on the joke. You feel like you're laughing with the band. Whereas with Steel Panther, the only thing that seems like you're supposed to be laughing at is the women. Like, you're not supposed to laugh at the band members. You're maybe supposed to laugh at the situations that they're in, but even then, those situations, by laughing at them, are kind of demeaning to certain groups. And I don't even think that's necessarily bigotry, I think it's just a failure to construct your joke in a proper way. And that's something I notice with a lot of the quote-unquote politically incorrect comedians I see. Like, I remember watching Bill Burr not that long ago and thinking, wow, this guy would be really funny if he just constructed his jokes a little bit differently to be less inflammatory, to just be less offensive, because it seems like a lot of comedians just want to go straight for the offense. I'm unapologetically offensive, I'm edgy, I'm this, I'm that. And honestly, that's just a really annoying, obnoxious way to make comedy. Whereas if you are willing to make fun of yourself, and you are willing to be lighthearted with the comedy you're making instead of malicious, then you're going to attract a lot more people to your content. And Ninja Sex Party is a great example of that, because if you compare just the numbers between Steel Panther and Ninja Sex Party, when it comes to comedy, Ninja Sex Party has a much larger audience. Again, Steel Panther, they're great musicians, and I think that they get a lot of respect inside the music industry because they're great musicians. But Ninja Sex Party, they have a much larger audience because of the fact that they aren't trying to be malicious. When you watch a Ninja Sex Party video, it makes you feel good inside rather than just kind of making you feel like, oh, this guy is great in this fictional world he made for himself. And that's the thing about political correctness, is more than anything, political correctness is just for marketing. Do you have any idea how many CEOs and just very successful people are actually incredibly bigoted behind closed doors? But they don't show that on the other side because they don't want people to know what their actual beliefs are. And the reason they don't want people to know what their beliefs are is because they know, they have the knowledge to understand, if I'm selling something and I turn away an entire group of people, that entire group of people is not going to buy my product. And it's the same thing with entertainment, it's the same thing with everything, and that's why political correctness is so often negatively affecting public figures, because public figures, you are selling yourself. You are selling your personality. And if your personality is tainted, then people aren't going to want to buy it. And that's really where political correctness came from. It came from the idea of marketing. It came from politics where, again, you are actually selling yourself. You are selling your image as a representative of your community. And if your image is tainted, then people aren't going to want that representing them. My point is that political correctness is nothing more than a idea, a set of guidelines that people follow to figure out when it is and is not appropriate to express certain things. And honestly, there's nothing that you can't express without the proper platform. And that's a big reason why there's a whole debate about, hey, let's not give Nazis a platform. But that's a whole nother video, that's a whole nother topic that I'm probably not even going to touch, because that's a lot more complex, that's a lot more heated than just talking about when it is and isn't appropriate to express your political beliefs. Because that's the thing, is it's really just about manners. It's just about decency. If you want to not be as obnoxious and insufferable as a person, just follow political correctness, and then people will be more obliged to not hate you. That's basically all it is it's just a set of guidelines to follow in how to express your political beliefs. And it's not trying to tell you, hey, you can't have these beliefs. It's just saying, hey, maybe don't say that. And that's a big thing as to why I don't understand why people are saying this is new to this generation, because really we're the generation that isn't following that. Because in the past, it was just, hey, you don't talk about these things. People used to never talk about who they were voting for, but now it has just become a common like water cooler discussion when it was never meant to be. It was meant to be the opposite, and that's where political correctness has actually started to fail. It's actually less present than ever because people just decided, hey, let's just talk about these things openly. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. It's a very gray issue. There is no black and white. I don't support or oppose political correctness. It's a very dynamic issue, and people like to simplify it because they need something to be angry about. Anyways, that's my take. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.